What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Me TV Reviews. I am your host, Mo, and tonight, you guys, we are going to be discussing Grotesquerie, y'all. That's right. This is season 1, episode 3, titled Episode 3. At least that's what I see on my end. I hope you guys have had a wonderful start to your week. It is just Monday, so we got a couple more days to make up our mind about it, all right? But whatever you guys are doing, please stay safe, especially my people down in the South, East. Y'all, please stay safe. If you have not yet left Florida, please get out. I don't know what path is taken. It's supposed to be going to Tampa, Hurricane Milton. They are still recovering from Hurricane Helene. And now Milton is on its way, and it's supposed to be worse than the previous hurricane. So if you are in its path, please get out. Go somewhere else. Try to just get to somewhere safe. Please don't try to think that you can wait this thing out, especially if you are in like the direct pathway. So yeah, please stay safe. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead, get into the synopsis real quick, and then we're going to get right into the episode. So the synopsis for this one is: Lois finds comfort in an unexpected person. All right, y'all. So we're going to be doing scene for scene for this one because I've actually started on it. I haven't finished the episode yet. So from what I've seen thus far, y'all, it is pretty good. So we're getting a little bit more backstory about Lois and Marshall in this one. But we start the episode off with baby girl Meritt. She is actually filming, or yeah, she's recording her audition tape or her audition video for that show that she wants to go on, the reality half-ton show. Okay. And so Lois is watching her record this, and she's trying to critique her, and y'all, she is just highly disappointed in all of this. Like, Meritt should be doing something way more interesting with her time, but of course this is what Meritt wants to do, and so Meritt wants to do it. It's gonna be done. Okay. So Lois is just sitting back. She's got a drink in her hand. And she's like, girl, you going to have to give them something else besides this little sad story that you're trying to give them. Because you know how, like, on My 600-Pound Life, they always have, like, those sad stories as they show them trying to get out the bed, this, that, and the third one. Merritt has, like, a curtain behind her. And so as she's giving this story, y'all, Lois ends up seeing somebody walk behind there. Like, it was a guy, right? You would thought that she was in the hospital, right? But she's not. I think she's actually at home. And so she was like, you're going to have to do something better than this. Tell them something that'll make you stand out that's not a sob story, okay? You didn't have a hard life growing up. You didn't have a tragic story. Tell them how you graduated at 16. Tell them how you got a perfect score on the SAT. Tell them this, tell them that. You are so intellectual. Tell them the positive things about you versus you just loving to eat and turn into food to try to cope when you have all of this brains to express yourself. You don't have to drown yourself in food. And so Meritt is telling her, that this is what she really wants to do. And honey, Lois is cramping her style. And so she was like, look, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, then you're going to have to get up out of here. Matter of fact, just go ahead and go. So she was like, okay, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to tell you now, I'm making you something real, real nice. And so, y'all, she ends up making her a turducken. So, and I had to put the caption on to make sure I heard it right. It's a turkey, a chicken, and a duck. So turkey, duck, and chicken. It's all in one. So Mary was like, no, you not. How did you figure out how to make that? And so she said that she had been having a hard time sleeping at night. And so she's been reading cookbooks. And of course, she talks about how Marshall used to be the cook of the house, but because in his absence now, she has to step her game up. Okay, not saying that she wasn't cooking at first, but she's learned a couple of things now that she's up a lot more at night. So she's got some time to experiment. So she gives a play-by-play to Merritt about this turducken. Y'all, it's supposed to be 12,000 calories. And so she was like, if you eat this whole thing in a matter of 4 days, then that's going to be about 3,000 calories a day. And so she was like, nah, girl. The way you probably finna have this thing looking, I'm a swallow this in about 2 or 3 days. And the way that she looked at her, y'all, she was like, are you freaking kidding me right now? And so she said, I will make you this on this one condition. If I do this for you, you can no longer tell me how much to drink or what to drink. You have no say so on how I partake in my alcoholic consumption. And so Mary thought about it for a quick second. She thought real long and hard about it. And she was like, I will cook for you whatever you want. And I won't say anything about your eating habits. I will try to help you reach your goal of reality stardom with this whole, half-ton thing, as long as you don't say anything about my drinking. So both of them are doing things to drive themselves quicker to the grave. Her with her drinking and Meritt with her eating. She is so borderline. And so Meritt decides to make that a deal. I was like, girl, what? It's an addiction, y'all. It's an addiction. And so she literally gives her a play-by-play of how she makes this turducken. And she also puts andouille sausage in it. I was like, you know what? That probably would be good. But I could probably only eat like a leg or something, because there is no way you can eat all of that. It is so stuffed with other animals. I think she said engastrated. And so she was like, did you say castrated? And she said, no, engastrated, meaning that there's an animal inside of an animal that you're going to eat. So anyway, so yeah, so she's sitting there and she says it's going to take about 3 hours to make this thing. So in the meantime, she makes her an omelet, right? And so the food finally finishes. Y'all, she is getting down on this turducken. Do you hear me? And Lois had the nerve to say that she was finna make some dessert. And she was like, yeah, but she probably tired, which I would be too. But what? And so she was like, girl, I'm finna eat some more of this turducken for dessert. But can you tell me how you and Daddy met again? And so she was like, again? So she tells her that her and Marshall had met. She was a student going to college during the day, and then she was working at this restaurant at night that Marshall would frequent with his students. And he was there every Friday. With his students religiously. And she loved serving that table because, it just brought so much love, so much light, and so much laughter. And of course, he was always so nice to her, and the way that he would look at her, like nobody had ever looked at her before. And, he just seemed genuinely interested in her. But I wonder what the age gap is, because if she was in school, not saying that, you have to go to school like straight out of high school, but you can clearly tell that there's an age gap there. So I'm wondering what the age gap is. Was he possibly grooming her? Manipulating her, because she's not underage, but manipulating her for sure, right? Because he's an older man. And she was pretty naive at that point. So she was going to school during the day, like I said, working at the restaurant at night. She was going to school to be a pre-law student. And so that's what her dad always wanted for her, but she is not interested in that. She would rather defend the law, like be working like what she's doing now, doing detective work and working in the precinct, versus trying to be in somebody's courthouse and going over all these laws and all those things, right? So one night, after everybody had left, because I guess that was his normal to kind of stay after the restaurant closed down. And so they would share a drink and laugh and, joke and talk about it. And so he's a philosophy teacher, or professor rather. And so he was, like I said, just trying to dig a little bit more into what she wanted. And this is what she had already told him. And so he was like, you should see what it is. And so he said, girl, he was so infatuated with her. He said, let's just go ahead and go on a date. And she was like, when? And he was like, now. So they end up kissing, of course. And, it was love after that. And she says nobody had ever looked at her, treated her like he had treated her. He would take care of her and kiss and love on her. And then the next thing we see her working this puzzle while he's cooking dinner, which she finished it before he got done. But the picture on it, y'all, it looked like the little devil thing that we saw like a little bit later on in the episode, right? So all these foreshadows, like these dark foreshadowings, almost kind of like it's always been there, like it's always been lurking, right? So So then after that, they sit down and they have dinner, and he tells her, you know what, maybe you should go ahead and do, maybe you should go ahead and be a detective. You know, why waste your brain on doing that when you could clearly use that to your advantage? So she did. She ended up becoming what she always wanted. And so then she says, you know, now I see what it is. Like, I was naive, I was young back then, but now I see what it is. I'm hyper vigilant now, and be careful what love does to you, because sometimes love can make a soft person turn hard and vice versa. And sometimes if it's the vice versa, where you're hard and you become soft when you're supposed to be like brutal, that can be your ultimate downfall. And so as Merit is listening to this, you know, she feels sad for her mom, because that's not the way that you should live life. And she was like, no, maybe not, but that's how it is. And that's how it has to be. And that's okay. And you just learn to live with it, and you keep on, you know, you keep on pushing. And so Merit ends up asking her subliminally, does that only equate to romantic relationships, like between her and Marshall? And she was like, if you're asking me, do I love you? Yes, without a doubt, I love you. And on the days that I can't, I always wish that I could. And so then Merritt tells her to stop drinking, and she was like, stop eating. And they both partake in the things that they love at that particular point. So then she ends up dozing off. She's dreaming, and she sees somebody behind this curtain, right? And so she automatically starts just busting off shots. And then she wakes up because the telephone is ringing. So Mary was like, can you answer that? Because there might be somebody from the hospital about that. And I was like, damn, can you answer it? How close are you to the phone? It sounds like it's the house phone. It's the landline ringing. So she answers the phone, and it's Jack. Y'all, Jack says, this is number 5. There's been another murder, or murderers. So she arrives to the scene, y'all. And she was drinking before she even got out the car. Now, granted, she was drinking before she went to sleep. So she's probably still sleeping that part off. So she ain't like completely sober pulling up. And then you drink a little bit before you get out the car. And then she ended up spilling some on herself. So you can smell it. Okay. So she's walking through this crime scene. She's stumbling. Now, she in heels. She's stumbling, but she's staying upright. So the police officer asking her, you know, hey, can I help you up the stairs? And she was like, no, I'm fine. So when she gets to this crime scene, y'all, she walks through the door, and it's kind of like at a warehouse, right? So she walks through this door. The strobe lights are just going off. Like maybe they were at a rave or something, right? So the strobe lights are going off. Loud music is blaring. And she's like, can you somebody please turn that damn music off? And so the officer is trying to explain to her that they've been trying to get this done for like an hour. However, they can't seem to find the control panel or something like that. And so she goes behind the speaker and she just yanks it out. So Jack was like, hey, you're going to have to go home because you too lit. Like, we can't have you out here in the community like this. And y'all, why he say that? She went ape shit. Do you hear me? Like, in a very controlled yet emotional rant. She was like, community? What you know about these people? Okay, you think I don't know who these people are? Okay, so let me tell y'all what it was. When she came in, it was kind of like a stripper pole, but not really. It was a column, right? And there was a mishmash of body parts. So these were multiple victims that had been sewn together, right? And the head had this mask on it. It was like the deviled horned mask, right? Scary. So she was like, community, what you know about these people? You think I don't know who these people are? When you the one that arrested most of them, or you had run-ins with them while they were on the street. But I know who they are. Do you? You could care less who these people are because these ain't your people. These my people. So she starts to talk about who they are. And the first one is Jessica Holt. Now, Jessica Holt was somebody who he had ran into because she had called the police on her pimp, right? Her pimp had beat her. And Jack was the one who took the report. And instead of him going to go arrest the pimp, he arrested her. And so she was snapping off about that. And then she talks about Drea Rhymes, Nene Lynn Taylor, and Danny Cotter. Now, I can't remember what she said about one of them, but she said something to the effect of one of the girls was where people would go oftentimes for tattoos, right? Because she had the blossoms, the cherry blossoms on her leg or her arm or something like that. And she was like, that's crazy because it's like a transient type of thing, but it's supposed to be a beautiful transient thing. That's what it's supposed to represent. And then she talked about the guy and how she had Narcaned him so much, she knew who he was. She said that he had had an open heart transplant because she pointed out the scar on his chest. She said that he had an open heart transplant when he was a kid because of a mitral valve obstruction or something like, or it just didn't close, right? And so he had to have open heart surgery. And then she said the last one was a tattoo piercing artist. And so she was like, she would always often ask me, hey, why don't you come down to my shop and let me pierce you up? Because, you want to spice things up in the bedroom and give your husband a little thrill. And she was like, no, because he don't deserve a thrill. So she knows exactly who these people are. But Jack has no idea who they are. Even though he had run-ins with them, he doesn't know anything about this community like she does. So for him to tell her to go home because she's drunk, and this may make them look bad overall, which, I mean, he's kind of right about that, She points out the harsh truth that he don't give a damn about the community, about people who look like them, you know. And even though he may, to a certain extent, deep down, there's that prejudice there, right? And if it's not him, then it's people that look like him that aren't really too concerned. They're more concerned about what's happening in other parts of the world versus what's happening here. Not to say that that's not important, but we've got people here that we need to care about, that we run into every day, that we need to have support for every day, that we need to show support so we can get that support if we need it, right? And so she finishes her tirade, y'all, and she was like, look, because the killer has claimed so many victims and staged this like he has, he's got to be tired as hell. So I want all the information that you can get on all of these victims, who they talked to in the last couple of weeks, surveillance footage, this, that, and the third. I want all of it on my desk. And I want us to try to find this guy, since he is probably going to have to take a rest after this. Let's get to it. And so she ends up getting ready to walk out, and she looks over at Jack. She comes over to apologize to him for being so blunt about it. And she was like, you know what? Never mind. I don't apologize. Sorry, not sorry, because you feel that way and you know I'm right. And y'all, she ends up walking off. I was like, good for you, girl. Like, you know how they say, those drunken thoughts are a sober man's mind or something like that. So yeah, she let him have it. And hopefully, I don't know, y'all. I just, with the whole thing with Mary, I just don't have a good feeling about it. The next day, y'all, Lois and Megan, sister Megan, they end up going to make their presentation to the rest of the team. Now, Jack is there. He's also there with the lieutenant or the captain. Yeah, the captain. And then the chief as well. So they're all there. And Lois is like, we need to listen to the nun. And he was like, no offense, but why is she here? Jack is tired of this. Jack is tired of Sister Megan. Okay. Why is she here? Well, she's here to provide us the insight that we lack, or that you lack, rather. And so Sister Megan goes on to explain that whoever this killer is trying to tell a story, right? We just got to figure out how to interpret what he's saying by his storytelling. Think of it as hieroglyphics, if you will. Okay, we just have to unscramble the language, and once we figure out the language that the killer speaks, then we'll have him. That's all we need. And so Lois goes on to say how, honestly, everybody up under her, she would fire them because Sister Megan has all the insight. Okay, we have to think about this on a different level. We have to figure out what the connections are. This has got to be some type of surgeon, some type of trauma surgeon or medical surgeon, or somebody that knows how to stitch, somebody that is good with scalpels. Okay, they know how to cut and they know how to sew. So let's figure that out. Let's figure out what type of threading they were using, what type of needles they bought. Let's figure out how to find where to look as far as like the warehouses. How did they even get access to this warehouse? How did they get these types of materials that they needed to hoist up these victims like he did? Okay, we have to unravel the string. We have to make the connections. But she feels like this is somebody who actually has a certain disdain for her in particular, because she has helped each and every one of those victims out. Even when she was arresting them, she was still on their side, trying to make sure that they were still going to be okay overall. Even though they were in the wrong, she wanted to make sure that they were still going to be okay from a human standpoint. Okay, there's some humanity behind this. And so Sister Megan goes on to say how whoever this is feels like sex is dirty, this, that, and the third. It's a sin. And so they need to get on this. Now, Lois ends up leaving with Sister Megan because clearly she's having a moment. And the way that the light shined on her, it was kind of like clarity, right? She's having a moment of clarity, even though after she left, Jack and the one lady were talking cash money about her, how they could smell the liquor on her, and how she needs to start attending AA meetings. She needs to sober up before this gets out of hand and it has to be turned over to IA. And the chief is like, are you kidding me? Her husband is in the freaking hospital on life support. Like, she's going through a lot. We need to support her. And she's Lois. I mean, she solved more cases than all of us. Okay, you just have to give her some time, and who knows, she'll probably end up solving this one. We just need to figure out a way to support her. Now get the hell up out my face. Shoo, be gone. So, over at the church, y'all, what is his name? Oh my God. The priest. The priest has been called, or they're having their meeting. I don't know what you would call it. Anyway, they're having their meeting with their upper heads, right, in the church, okay? The people in upper positions, associate priest, bishops, all the things, right? So they're having a meeting with him because his name is Charles. Sorry, y'all. So they called Charles and they said, hey, so we like what you're doing, but could you just kind of ease up on the type of content that y'all are releasing through this newspaper? It's kind of pornographic almost. And he was like, say what? What's wrong with that? Well, that's not really the target audience that they're trying to shoot for, but he said, hey, you have to do this, okay? You got to get with the times. This is how it works. Now, if the Congress people can do it, if the councilmen and the congressmen can do it, then we should be able to. The church actually used to do it a long time ago, and it was pretty effective. So we need to get back to that. I mean, everybody's reading it now, right? We're giving them something to read. We're giving them something to talk about. We're giving them something to come to church about, right? So why don't we just keep doing that? Okay, because if not, then the church is going to die. You need to get with the times. We need to talk about spending classes. when he talk about online services. And then y'all, he had the audacity in front of these church folks to say that they should get an OnlyFans for church people. I was like, what? What y'all gonna talk about on this? Y'all, he is a devil in sheep's clothing. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing, y'all. For real. So because he asked the bishop, okay, what you want me to do? I mean, I'm doing everything you asked me to do. The people are coming to church now. We've given them something to talk about. Like, this is a little old town, and yet here we are. We're thriving when all the other churches are slowly dying. Come on, man. And so the bishop was like, all right. Just keep on doing what you're doing, all right? But just calm down on the flamboyancy a little bit, all right? Just calm down, man. He was like, all right. No, we're going to do more. Okay, we should do more if we want to make sure that we stay up to date with all the things. So I was like, okay, all right, Charles, go on. So after they leave, y'all, Sister Megan calls him. Why is he in his chaps? I finally remembered the word, y'all. He's in his leather chaps. Cheeks out. Booty cheeks out. In the church with like a lace doily type of covering over it. In his little red boots. I was like, you know what? He gonna burn. He is gonna burn. Now, y'all know Ryan Murphy really be touching on stuff behind the scenes that be happening. I'm pretty sure he was getting a lot of people hot up under the collar, okay? So he is listening to opera music, dancing in the aisles of the church, in the sanctuary, until Sister Megan calls him. So then she starts to ask for his permission to release the story about this most latest set of victims. And when she's telling him what she's going to write and how she's describing it, y'all, he has the widest grin come across his face. He actually likes what she's telling him. And so he sits down, he crosses his feet on the pews, y'all, and he tells her this kind of reminds him of something that happened back in the 1980s where this medical guy, because she said that she feels like whoever this is has to be in the medical field in some kind of way, like some little quack doctor that done went off the rails. And he was like, oh, there's precedence in this. And so she was like, wait a minute, what? And so he tells her about this medical professional that basically tortured and targeted homosexuals back then, tortured them and then stabbed them to death. Okay. And so when he's talking about it again, y'all, he's got the widest grin on his face. This is kind of like dirty talk for them. This is like foreplay for them, because as he's telling her the story, she's sitting over there playing with her hair. So he was like, okay, what you're telling me, it sounds really good. How about you just bring it over to me in about an hour? I want a hard copy. So y'all, she comes over, and when she opens up the door, he's got on nothing but a towel. And so she was like, oh, I can come back, and he was like, no, it's fine. Actually, can you wipe my back? And so she comes over, she brings him the copy of it, and he's looking through it, and he was like, this is really good. I'm proud of you. And all the things that you are accomplishing, you are amazing. And so he gives her the towel to start wiping his back, y'all. But before she starts to wipe his back, she spits on it. She spits on the tile. And I was like, is he really finna have her look at his back? Because y'all know he was whipping his back in the previous episode. And so she spits on the towel. She starts to wipe his back with said towel, y'all. And although I thought it was hella gross, this is getting them off. Both of them. And so she over there moaning, he over there moaning, just kind of taking it all in. It's a whole scene for them, right? And so then she just can't take no more. She wants to lick him all over the face and put her fingers in his mouth and do all the things, right? So much sexual tension. And so then he shouts at her, no, you know, the desires of this world and, how we see people through our eyes and, the sexual tension in these desires. This is of this world. This is not of the Lord. And so as soon as he says that, she excuses herself. And y'all, in the hallway, it's almost like the spirit of lust is like trying to exit her body. It's kind of like she's trying to exorcise it from her body. Did y'all get that, or did you get something else? Y'all let me know what y'all thought about that part. It was a weird scene, but y'all just let me know what y'all thought about it. Lois ends up returning to the hospital, and y'all, she walks in just as Nurse Red is she is trying to stop the bleeding from Marshall's bed sore, his pressure wound. Y'all, I was like, is that the bone? Is it down to the bone? No, it's not down to the bone, but we can see like white meat. Okay. And so she's trying to stop the bleeding. And of course, Lois is appalled. She's just like in shock. She doesn't know what to think. And she's like, girl, don't just stand there. Just help me. Okay. You and all your drunken stupor. Can you please come over here and do something? You are so busy trying to criticize everybody about the job or the lack that thereof they're doing down here trying to take care of your husband. Meanwhile, you're over there getting drunk every day, trying to solve this case, and you don't care anything about him. And so she gets Lois to help her as she sews up his bed sore, his pressure wound, y'all. She sews it up, and I was like, okay. Y'all, is Nurse Red? Are Nurse Red and Eddie working together? Are there two people involved in this? Because with her being so critical of people and how they spend their time or don't spend their time with their loved ones while they're in the hospital, I could see her. Maybe Eddie is her son. Okay, y'all. Anyway, so after she sews up his pressure sore, like I said, she's steady more digging into Lois about how she's always drunk, how she's never there for Marshall, and, she needs to be more present. And so Lois is pissed because nobody had ever told her about this. Why did you let it get this bad? And she said, where's your team? And she was like, girl, what team? I don't have a team. It's just me. This little small town, we ain't got the funding for no big care team here. It's just me, girl. And I was like, damn, no wonder. Because I really haven't seen anybody else aside from episode 1 where she was talking to them students, and maybe them was just like some passing through students that was there for clinical rotations or something. So anyway, she then meets Lois down in the cafeteria, and she's got a manila envelope. So she is, or no, it's a black envelope. She slides it over to her, and Lois reads it, and she was like, what the hell is this? Y'all, Nurse Red wants her to sign over her power of attorney over Marshall. She was like, look, you don't care nothing about him, no way. You can sign this. Nobody has to know. You can just sign this, and you won't have to worry about him again. Okay? It's not like you care about him in the first place. So why don't you just go ahead and let him be? And so, of course, she's like, that's my husband. I would never do that to you, to him. And so she's just like, you still won't relinquish control. It's a control thing with you. But she was like, that's my husband. How dare you? And so she gets up and she storms away. Now, as she's walking outside, she done pulled out the flask again, y'all. She just won't give it up. And I was like, what is it going to take for you to learn your lesson? She goes out there and she's by this flower, this like this garden, right? Beautiful garden. It's got flowers all over the place. Very nice, very lovely, very tranquil, very quiet, very peaceful, very serene, right? So she's out there and she's looking for a lighter in her purse, but she can't seem to find one, but she's trying to light the cigarette. So somebody comes by real quick and lights her cigarette for her. So she turns around. It's Travis Kelce. He finally done appeared. But y'all, he's going by Eddie. Ed in this show. Now, she calls him Fast Eddie because he is putting on quite the charm, okay? He is laying it on thick. And I was like, Travis. Have you ever been with such a curvaceous woman before? You can tell they have great chemistry. Okay. I can see that happening. She's a cougar, but I can see him handling her. I could see them doing something on screen. So anyway, of course they're going back and forth with how beautiful she looks, and he says she's beautifully odd or oddly beautiful. He can't figure out which one. And she was like, "Does that work on all the women?" And he was like, "It only works if it's true." And she was like, "Look at you. Okay, come on, Fast Eddie." And then he called her sassy pants or something like that. And she looked over at the flower garden, and she was like, "Man, it's so pretty." And he was like, "Yeah, but nobody can go over there for whatever reason." I'm like, "Oh, that's weird. I wonder why." So then, of course, he makes a note of how she was looking for somebody to light her cigarette. Oh no, she makes note of how he came over to assist her with lighting her cigarette. And he was like, "Yeah, after your cig break, you're probably gonna want to hurry up and get up out of here, but should you really be driving? Because I noticed that you've been drinking." And she was like, "Probably not, but I'm still gonna do it." And so he offers to take her where she needs to go, and she was like, "That's okay." Or and so she ends up leaving, right? She drives. She's driving down this lonely stretch of highway in like the middle of nowhere. It's like deserted land. And we can see somebody crossing the road, seems like. And so she is down off in her purse, not paying attention, completely distracted. She sees the person. I don't know if she tries to overcorrect. When she does, however, she ends up hitting a pole, right? The airbag deploys and glass shatters everywhere. Next thing you know, the person is not there anymore. So I think that was probably just a hallucination, right? Her mind is playing tricks on her. And so I was like, okay, is she still knocked out? Because when she woke up, y'all, she was in the hospital, but of course she was arrested. Now the chief is there who was just defending her to jack into one of her subordinates. She was just defending Lois. And now she's like, what are you doing? What happened? Her blood alcohol content level was 0.13, which is almost twice the legal limit. And so she was like, "You're making it really hard for me to try to stand by you. And I feel like you're going to have me do something that none of the politicians or the congressmen could do." And that was like, try to make this go away for you, even though it goes against her moral code. She's going to try to make this go away for Lois because that's how much she believes in Lois. And she just knows that Lois is down in the dumps. And so after she leaves, well, while she was still there, Eddie came in, right? And he dropped off her dinner. And so he was kind of just standing behind the chief and, listening and being playful with her. And so after the chief left, she asked him to get the key out of her purse and uncuff her so she could get out of there. And so he was like, "Wait a minute, you trying to make me complicit in your crimes now?" Make it make sense. And so, oh, I forgot to mention that when he had first met her, he had talked about how, she was really beautiful, how she wanted her hair flying in the wind, and how she probably would be listening to some Earth, Wind, and Fire, right? So she was like, "Don't act like you know me." They were just sitting up there talking. So now she was like, "Pretty please." And so he ends up saying how he's a sucker for damsel in distresses, basically, or problem children. That's what he said, problem children like her. And so I was like, "What you mean? You done did this before? Is this the same orderly that ended up impregnating that underage girl? I need to know before Kelsey and her become a thing or they don't in the show." So he ends up grabbing the key out of there and he hands her her clothes. And so she was like, "Can you just like turn around?" And he ends up closing the curtain. Now, as he's closing the curtain, y'all, Earth, Wind, and Fire starts to play. Hearts of Fire. I was like, oh, or is it Love Desire? Hearts of Fire. And so, y'all, she is she is smitten by this man, okay? infatuated, turned on, all the things, right? And so she's lusting for him. He's handsome, okay? So she done put her clothes on and she's like, "Can you help me get out of here?" And he was like, "You're going to have to be quick because the candy strippers going to be around in a minute and they are very aggressive." And that's just the candy striper. So ain't no telling what's coming next. So next thing we see, y'all, after she gets dressed, they're literally running down the hall. She's got this scarf over her head. She's got these big glasses on, I guess trying to disguise who she is, right? They're running down the hall trying not to get caught. And it seems like his red car is the only car out in the parking lot. He opens up the door for her and she was like, "Wow, you really are a gentleman." And they ride off into the night. And that's the way the episode ends. And I was like, I love how they actually played the Earth, Wind, and Fire song. So this makes me think that she's still knocked out. Or maybe she's dreaming about him. I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all thought about it, okay? Who is this mysterious Eddie? Do y'all believe that him and Nurse Red is working together? Could that be her son? I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all thought about it, okay? You can reach me at Me and You TV Reviews on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also reach me at My TV Reviews Podcast without the S on the end at gmail.com. Y'all, I love y'all. I love this show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hey, you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. This ain't no college class, no NADC college. This ain't that. But if you are listening and you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Okay. Follow me if you're listening or streaming through the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to try to do better about posting videos there. It's just been really busy, y'all. So you'll get it here first on the podcast and then it'll come eventually on the YouTube channel. But go ahead and hit that follow, okay? I know y'all out there. I know y'all listening because I see it. Thank you guys so much. I really, really do appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. I really do. All right. That's all I have for now. So until we meet over the airwaves again, I am Mo, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.